really no reason. The only thing they really said was that they were sorry that they did it.
This is the telegram a soldier's family dreads. Regret to inform you your son is missing in action. That's the message Tony Jurek's parents got in 1950. As an 18-year-old corporal, Jurek was captured by the Chinese and held in this prison camp on the Yalu River for 33 months. How bad was it in a Chinese prison camp?
When they did their roll call in the morning, they wouldn't fall out. They just knock on the door of the hut and ask how many dead.
By war's end, the answer was nearly 1,600. Jurek himself was nearly one, dropping to 75 pounds. But the end of the war saw better conditions, and this picture of Jurek taken inside the camp. Now he's helping organize the state convention of the Minnesota ex-prisoners of war, bringing together old comrades who understand.
You can talk to people about things that normally most people don't believe, or find it very difficult to believe. Whereas you talk to somebody that's been through it, and they don't look at you like you're some kind of nut, you know.
About 75 ex-POWs and their families are expected Thursday and Friday. Jurek says remembering the price paid by POWs and MIAs is very important.
I think we have to keep the issue alive, even if we never realize the return of a live POW. We have to keep the issue alive.
And this group is committed to doing just that, in memory of those who didn't get this kind of welcome home. In Cloquet, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
See more injuries probably.
Yeah, well, common sense always should take precedence. Rotary lawnmowers in particular seem to produce the most devastating injuries. People somehow still, in spite of guards and warnings and just the well-known hazards associated with them, still manage to stick their toes under them and stick their fingers in them. They try to tinker with them when they're running. They try to either go on hills or defeat the guards, defeat the little thing underneath that stops your feet from going under there. They still manage to get injured with those, and they're normally very serious injuries.
What kind?
I think we're going to bump Doty out in the primary, and it'll be a race between myself and somebody else in the general election.
And double jeopardy would prevent us from coming back and trying someone a second time for something they'd already been convicted or pled guilty of. And so it's one of those difficult decisions that people have to make in the criminal justice system.
Comes through here for me either too. And the other thing I mean.
I was talking then, your audio isn't being used.
Well, I'm not going to say anything
Okay.
that I wouldn't want.
Okay. On camera anyway. So Lieutenant Hall actually was.
Well, it's something that we did reluctantly, but we felt a need to accomplish. And I think we did it in a democratic fashion. We got the student body's input. Not everybody was in total agreement. It's hard to let go of the past. But we did that, and I think we came out with an excellent logo.
It's the morning after, and many Twin Port residents are walking around in a foggy daze. It's not because they drank too much, but rather a lack of sleep. The belch of the foghorn poured into downtown Duluth last night. This morning, the complaints poured into City Hall.
We've used it during the noon hour. This is probably one of the first times that the foghorn has been actually used for its intended purpose.
Its intended purpose was as a navigation guide for ships when visibility became low. But now it's a tourist attraction for visitors and, judging by last night, a safe alternative to Vibrant for local residents.
The commercial vessels nowadays have a lot of sophisticated electronic navigational equipment. And the fact that with that equipment there is a largely reduced usage by the commercial people of the fog signals, as I understand it. However, we still have a large recreational contingency of boaters that still depend on those type of aids to navigation.
When the visibility becomes 1 mile or less, the horn begins sounding on 1-minute intervals. The horn may have sounded louder last night because of the easterly wind and the density of the fog. Both acted as an amplifier for the horn, making it sound as though it was your alarm clock.
I was told by Dr. Ringsred, John Ringsred, that they did a decibel study here a few years ago when they were first going through the ways and means of getting the foghorn put back in, and that it did not exceed the safe level.
The city maintains the horn, and officials have temporarily disconnected it while they figure out what to do.
The city's looking at limiting the time in which the foghorn can operate to daytime and evening hours.
Another option would be to turn it down. So until a decision is made, the only noise you'll hear on foggy nights will be the Coast Guard's foghorn, which has been allowing people to sleep for years. In Duluth, John Jetta, Channel 6 News.
Those obscure scrawls on medical charts and prescriptions mean something, but who can understand it? It's like trying to read a cryptic message upside down without a decoder. Charles Inlander, author of the Consumer's Medical Desk Reference, told me it's time to end the mystery.
Like they'll write LOL on a chart, which stands for little old lady, and it doesn't really matter if you're a male or a female. What that means is you're a passive consumer, that they can basically do almost anything to you and you're not going to complain, you're not going to raise much of a ruckus.
Okay, try this one. It's Gomer. It means get out of my area. But it's also...
that's a person who's asked a lot of questions, a person who is very, very aggressive in the way they act.
At times, medical speak sounds intimidating, even to a doctor.
Well, it is intimidating. I was recently a patient. Every doctor should be a patient. They find out how scared and how intimidated one can be lying there in the bed, helpless and dependent on others.
Doctors use cryptic speech because it's faster, but Inlander says there's more to it than that.
They are trained to basically intimidate people, to give information that others wouldn't be able to give them. So by the time they graduate and the time they get into practice, they've been established by medical school, in essence, to be very secretive in one sense, to be very patronizing in another sense, and frankly, I don't even think they realize what's happened to them.
I'm Chuck Henry, NBC News, Los Angeles.
This morning to release the latest in a series of public opinion surveys. This one concerning detailed walkthrough of the findings. I believe that these findings demonstrate that Americans are sending a clear message to the Congress. And that message is, don't try to cut too much too soon. Let's take it carefully, let's take it slowly, and above all, let's protect our healthcare system.
There are so many more uncontrollable, unpredictable factors in the grain trade, macroeconomics, world politics, weather, that affect the grain industry in greater degrees than those factors that impinge on the steel industry or on the coal industry.
Appreciate you taking the time to come this morning and are anxious to get your input and come. We appreciate you taking the time. Environmental auditing legislation that passed that gives every business in this state a chance to review their operations in terms of compliance with major environmental regulations, and to do that without the fear of prosecution, provided that if they discover a problem that they make immediate corrections. So
delayed. We don't know at this point in time when the soils work will begin. As they excavate out of the lagoon, there will be testing done below the sludge to determine whether or not the soil underneath the lagoon is contaminated. So that's kind of right now what source material activity will be taking place. They run these through the PCA, and so we're work with them. The rest of the schedule, the EPA cutbacks, part of the activity at the site has been temporarily delayed. We don't know at this point in time when soils work will begin. The money that was available.
park, and we're glad we're here. And the car, you know, she's running good, and we're having a great time. And I tell you, baseball, blue.
It made me feel good too. She got it back, and
You find things like that?
not a lot, but on occasions you do find something. And a lot of times.
Well, I knew it didn't belong to me. Rightfully, it wasn't something that was mine, and as a Christian person, you couldn't keep it. You know, there's no way that you would think. You know, because if I lost something like that, I would like it returned to me.
He sent me back a check. That's the only two times we've gotten anything. But otherwise, other maintenance workers have found that and found wallets and stuff like that and have returned it to us.
So how long have you been working with her?
The people at the time went through the whole process to review what would happen, and the liability for the citizens and the cost at that time were prohibitive, and whether that will be investigated again or not, I don't know at this point.
Big businesses can start in small ways. In 1979, biologist Steve Paragas and his wife were looking for jobs and also needed a wood stove.
And we worked for EPA for about 2 years, and we were out of a job when that ended, and we needed a wood stove, so we bought 3 of them instead of 1, and we sold 2 of them, and we started selling wood stoves.
That small business grew into Paragas Northwoods Company, one of the biggest canoe outfitters in Minnesota. Now the company offers everything from T-shirts to outdoor gear to handcrafted paddles. But there's one other area of sales that Paragas likes: books.
It's real nice because almost nobody returns a book for size.
In seriousness, the Northwoods Company's main business is in a very successful series of catalogs.
The big part of the business these days is the mail order part. We have a catalog that we send out to about 250,000 people around the country and around the world, and that's more than half of our business now.
Paragas employs 25 people at Northwoods, which has expanded twice in the last few years.
Get out there. We do guided trips into the Boundary Waters and the Quetico Park. And we actually have another part of our business that we started a couple years ago called the Brandenburg Gallery.
That's a photo collection featuring the work of National Geographic photographer Jim Brandenburg, best known for this wolf picture that has been reproduced around the world. The unique aspect of the display is just one reason Paragas Northwoods Company is a profile of success. In Ely, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
We've acquired a part of Reach All, which is the underbridge section, which we feel was always kind of the jewel in Reach All's crown. They enjoy about 85% market share in the underbridge industry, and it's always been a very good machine for Reach All, and so we felt it was a good move for us to make.
Positions in the Postal Service. His last was in Eau Claire, Wisconsin as a... Introduce Mayor Gary Doty. The city of Duluth has been in and cooperated completely and well with...
For me this morning. In addition to that, along with $1,000 jobs, of course, comes a payroll of approximately $14 million. and that's going to do great things for our community. There are many people who are going to be able to upgrade the jobs that they're in by moving into the jobs with USPS. There are some that are going to be able to step into jobs when they are unemployed at this point. There are people in the city of Duluth to be able to represent everyone by standing here and cutting the ribbon on.
They have a ball on the end, which is a double convex lens. It focuses on the mirrors that are full length in the tube, and you see whatever you point it at.
They were unable to be there, so we brought the award here, and we'd like to keep you around. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dick. And I'd like to...
That's you. We've been on stress belt, right? That's you.
That's me. Carolyn, yep. So when we got in the car, we'd always buckle up because I did not want to be arrested by Dick for not wearing my seatbelt. And also for my grandchildren, who always reminded us as soon as we got in the car, put your seatbelt on, Grandma. And we did. So.
I checked on that, said...
How old is he, do you know?
He is 32.
We Northlanders love to ride bicycles in the summer, but we don't always protect the bikes from being stolen. Bike theft is a major problem to area law enforcement agencies. In 1995 in Duluth alone, there were 67 bicycles reported stolen through the middle of June. They were worth over $17,000. Thieves most often steal the bicycles from yards or off of porches, but many more are stolen out of garages and storage sheds. Some disappear from hallways in apartment buildings or off of bike racks at work. Some disappear while the owner is swimming or playing ball. Crime Stoppers would like to catch these thieves and help prevent future loss. Chain your bike to something solid. Know the serial number and scratch your Operation ID number somewhere on the frame. Call us at 1-800-974-TIPS or 723-ENOUGH.
It's Friday night and crowds of people are filing into the Superior Speedway to watch what has become one of the Northland's largest spectator sports. Area dirt tracks attract about 1,500 loyal race fans per night.
It doesn't matter if there's clouds or if it's cold or if it's steamy hot. they're going to come to the racetrack because they enjoy it.
People from all walks of life converge at the track to enjoy the passes, the crashes, and dashes to the checkered flag.
Well, you go once, you'll just get addicted to it. Like, you'll want to go every week.
The racers who put on the shows are as diverse as the fans. For instance, the Northland has its racing doctors, lawyers, teachers, and florists. From the kids to the grandparents, anyone involved in racing will tell you it's a family activity, whether you're in the stands, on the track, or in the pits.
It gets you closer together and doing things together, and you can learn a great deal too.
The drivers say while their hobby is fun, it's also expensive and hard work. Tomorrow we'll show you what goes into putting a car out on the racetrack. Gina Katzmark, Channel 6 News.
I guess that's what I enjoy about fly fishing is you really never know what you're going to catch. You never know how many you're going to catch. And when the fishing's good, it's going to be far better than fishing is with conventional spinning tackle.
They can talk about that, but on the other hand, they're not telling you how much we're spending.
Government spending this year on job training programs. Well, a visible issue of the budget that you've really made some great strides on.
Well, there's a lot of rhetoric probably on one side. This is a good budget, and when you hear terms of slash and burn, which those who oppose this budget will use, it's not true. They are afraid to let go of federal spending. They're afraid to face the facts and the problems that we have.
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing, but you have
Arctic explorer Will Steger and his band of Arctic travelers made a stop in Ely today. Ely is home to Steger, and he says it becomes harder and harder to leave. But his passion for an annual expedition pulls him back to the Arctic every time.
To put it in words, but it's just spirit of adventure. I mean, anyone that travels up to Ely and does a canoe trip, and most of these people want to come back. It's that same type of love of the wilderness and the spirit of adventure, but there it's really high adventurous. It's a dangerous place to be if you don't know what you're doing, but if you know what you're doing, it's a pretty incredible area.
Steger says danger comes with the territory of being an Arctic traveler, but he, his team, and dog team go through some rigorous training before plunging back into the Arctic air.
We trained, this expedition we trained for 3 years prior. We had 3 other expeditions each year, where we built up our equipment, the type of clothing systems, and bred special dogs, trained that, and also to work in the personalities of the people together. So there was pretty much extensive training as usual in a large expedition like that involving, in this case, 35 dogs, 6 people.
Teammates for Steger's team changed from expedition to expedition, but his dog team has been the same for the past 4 years. With team members, Steger picks people based on how they mesh together as a group. And this year, Viktor Boyarsky from St. Petersburg, Russia, was one of the lucky ones to be selected.
And somehow, I don't know, it's kind of my fortune, because it's, I was at the time in Antarctica. I didn't know about this activity around behind, but they sent a letter to somebody in our government, and they sent a letter to my institute, because my institute is the main institute in the country doing all this stuff with Arctic and Antarctic regions. And they're looking for scientists which could be in good shape.
Victor plans to be in good shape for his expedition next year from Russia to Canada, while Steger plans another trip to the Arctic with a different band of merry men and women. In Ely, Quinn Mosby, Channel 6 News.
Part of the woods he was at.
And so we sent our people out there in plain clothes and just kind of acted like they were enjoying the park. And they had an idea then as to where to find the possible camp. and which they did. And he didn't offer any resistance whatsoever.
The sight of 3 generations sitting side by side enjoying an evening of racing isn't as rare as you might expect.
Our competitors who we compete hard against are like best friends, and we all know each other really well, and our kids all know each other, and it's a good family sport.
One you're never too young or too old to enjoy. Many of the fans here started going to the races as children. Today, they bring their own kids along to enjoy the sport they grew up with.
Our whole family goes. We thought that when our daughters got married that we'd probably be losing some of our family, but our son-in-laws have joined in. They're my son's pit crew, and so it's a family sport. Our grandchildren come with us, and we love it.
Often a race fan will start going to the track to watch a friend or family member compete, and soon after, they get hooked.
Left a graduation party to come here.
Drivers and track promoters say it's the people who fill the stands each race night who are making the sport thrive. And the future of stock car racing is in the hands of the very youngest spectators. Gina Katzmark, Channel 6 News.
I'll quit all my hobbies to do this. It's fun. You spend 40 hours a week working on a car and 10 minutes each night racing it. It's all worth it if you're having a good night.
Duluth's Mike Rich has had many good nights this year, making him one of the top dirt track racers in the Midwest. But Rich will be the first one to tell you success doesn't come easily.
So all I can say is it takes a lot of work.
It's almost just like another full-time job, 40 hours a week.
And time isn't the only thing invested in these race cars.
In a range of probably $20,000, $30,000.
Anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 to put it on the track.
Well, I suppose a new one of these cars costs about $12,000.
You can go from $10,000 to $15,000 for a rolling car, and then whatever you want in a motor, $10,000, $15,000 there.
A lot of factors go into how much money you put into one of these, including what class of car you're driving, how much money you want to invest, and especially how good your luck is out on the track. Any kind of breakdown or crash can be expensive. Tires alone cost around $100 a piece, and engines run in the thousands. Sponsor and prize money can soften the blow, though most racers still end up putting plenty of their own cash into their cars. But just about every driver out here will tell you it's worth it.
I got kids, show them that if you don't win all the time, you don't give up. Just keep trying.
The reason I do it is I love it. It's in your blood. Someday I'm going to make money at it.
Gina Katzmark, Channel 6 News.
Just try and stay cool in the shade, jump in the lake, fans help.
Today was spent setting up shop in Superior. Working from a dock owned by the Sea Service Company, officials of the Environmental Protection Agency will make another trip onto the lake tomorrow, starting a week's worth of exploration of the Lake Superior mystery barrels.
And we're very confident of the results we're getting off the drums. It's just a hope that we can find more and get more readings this time than we did the first time we were here.
That was in 1990, and Benning was here then for the first round of barrel testing. But this time there aren't going to be submarines with Geiger counters. The EPA unveiled its secret weapon today. Well, after all the waiting and all the anticipation, here it is. This is a mini rover. It weighs about 70 pounds, and when it's dangled from a tugboat tomorrow, hopefully it'll provide the answers to all our questions. The mini rover will carry its own Geiger counter to the barrels, testing selected containers for 15 minutes apiece. The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency is also involved. Like the last time they visited, they don't expect this week's search to turn up anything new, but say if searching again eases the minds of residents, it's work well worth doing.
I think any information that can be gathered on the project, no matter what it is, I think should help people ease their minds, and we certainly welcome it, even though we didn't really see a need to do this type of testing.
Could be some alternatives or direction change, and I guess I will.
Aye. Any opposed?
What are we going to do as parents and grandparents for the future kids that go down there and drown? Are we going to stand on the side and say, my kid drowned there?
We're out right now at the house of a lady who's decided to sell some of her items, and she's got an upcoming sale. And she's invited us in, and what we're going to do is we're going to go around and point out a few items. Of course, many of these items that we have here today are considered new items and not really collectible, but you never know, they might belong on someone's shelf somewhere. And some of the items that I see that are more collectible that we have here, of course, we have the old gumball machine, the old barrel chair. Almost every person has many of the old glass vases that we have here, and which is so typical, but interdispersed between these we have some good items. I've got here, this is cut glass, this is a nice little piece. The floral things are very hot, and then odd colors are very hot too. So there's glassware on here that has some value. Of course, down here we're looking at probably one of the most collectible art pottered pieces that we have in this market, and that's Roseville. And remember, folks, don't ever hesitate to turn the piece over and take a look on the bottom. On the top here, we have a Coke tray. And the Coke tray itself, they run anywhere from $5 to $10. An original Coke tray like that probably runs in the $100 to $200 range. All right? So there's plenty of collectibles here. It's just, where do you see them? Where are they? They're all in here. Old collectibles, new collectibles, and future collectibles. Okay, now we're in another section of the home right now, another extension of the basement, and in here we find more collectibles. And of course, my favorite is right here on the floor, and of course we're looking at the old Mark's Davy Crockett fort. And this box includes all kinds of unique toys that I used to love as a kid. We're looking at some of the fishing rods that are here. Of course, a lot of them are the newer fishing rods, and they're not quite as collectible as, let's say, the old bamboo, which are highly collectible these days. But these were that intermediate time when they weren't as good as the new ones today, but better than the ones that your dad had before. Fishing lures, fishing items, all of these things, highly collectible. Of course, whenever you're buying anything that is at one of these places, you're always wondering, am I going to pay more for it than I can buy it at the store, or am I going to pay less? And typically you'll pay less. Many treasures are found hidden in garages, basements, and attics. This was kind of a unique piece. They didn't know it was here, but this is an old mirror. It's a trifold or bifold mirror, and it was used in the old Morgan Park Mercantile years and years ago when the old steel plant was around. Obviously with the beveled glass and the oak and the workmanship that's on here, we're probably looking at probably turn of the century or possibly into as late as the teens. Excellent little piece.
This little thing may garner as much as $200–300. Beautiful little piece. And it's going to look nice once it's refinished in someone's home. If you assume that these things have little or no value, then you give them away or you put little or no value price on them. But everything has value and people are willing to pay for it.
Does it make any sense to bid them out separately?
So they'll probably have to wait till the injunction is up to proceed with the bidding, and at that point then they're probably free to try and get a contractor in there. But it should be done before the end of this construction season. That's what I would guess.
If there's no further court action. Great. Thank you very much.
N213's excavation there was completed almost 3 years ago. The cleanup. Finally, the fourth type of site is one we don't have.
A few of them are wrong, so they're going to be a little bit different than I'm showing you on 54th Avenue Peninsula, Keene Creek Bay, and it goes all the way to the sediment operable unit. I know that a lot of people here are interested in the sediment operable unit, and we are currently investigating the problems of the extent of contamination for the sediment.
Action perhaps following this current phase. In terms of cost, the average cost is super.
I know a few of them are wrong, so they're going to be a little bit different than I'm showing you. The third one is the sediment operable unit. I know that a lot of people here are interested in the sediment operable 54th Avenue Peninsula, Keene Creek Bay, and it goes on.
It's not considered final until we bring it to the community and ask how it fits your needs. So we plan on taking into account what you say about it and would really like to hear your views here tonight. As I said, this meeting is the final step in the soils cleanup input process, but you should also know that your comments may be made after this meeting as well.
But you better watch out, otherwise you're going to get sprayed with it. I think I'll stay over here during this weekend camp.
Well, I think it's really good for the kids. For the past couple of years, they've been working the Courage Center Day Camp and the YMCA Day Camp simultaneously, and I think it's good for the kids to be out with a big group of kids working together. It's fun to see the kids interacting, making new friends, and just having fun together.
So are the kids, are the disabled children here just for last week and this week, or what kind of how long are they here for?
It was an idea whose time had come, a facelift for PSS. It was needed with paint flaking from buildings, rocks on the field, and concrete flaking off the bleachers. That's why these volunteers came here this morning, but politics nearly got in the way. District union employees had threatened to picket this morning, saying the volunteers took work from them. That didn't materialize, but an OSHA inspector did show up to make sure students weren't working with lead-based paint. But politics didn't matter much to these volunteers.
You know, the thing's starting to gain a life of its own, and that's what we were hoping, is that once we got things going and got some visual things happening, that people would see, hey, this is a good project.
Reaction from players was uniformly positive.
I'm just glad to see somebody's finally getting something started. This place needs it so bad. It's just, I'd be willing to do this more than once.
I'm sure it's better for the fans when it'll be all done, and it'll be nice because we come here and watch some of the games when we're not playing, so it'll be nice when we're sitting in the stands and know that we actually did it.
Buildings on site will all be painted dark green, and a local business has donated new siding for the press box. But one player realized the work was long overdue.
It's old.
It's old, but it's pretty.
Yep.
There's another reason why the renovation was a good idea. Those that favor a new stadium for Duluth aren't likely to get one for a long time.
Taxpayers in this community are strapped already, and they're not looking at spending $10–12 million to replace this when we could spend $500,000 and make it look like a new lady again.
In Duluth, Jeff Papers, Channel 6 News.
On Tuesday morning, June 27th, a young woman dropped off her child at her daycare center. She left her car for only a moment, but when she returned, her purse was gone. She was one of 4 women in Duluth and Superior who had her purse stolen in front of a daycare center during June. 2 suspects were later videotaped cashing stolen checks which had been in the purses. Both suspects were heavy white females who weighed over 200 pounds. One suspect had shoulder-length brown hair, and the other had below the shoulders blonde hair. Both women were about 30 years old. These thieves may be residents of the Northland, but police believe they were just visitors during June. Do you know either of the suspects? Do you know if they stayed at an area hotel or motel? Crime Stoppers will pay up to $1,000 to find out who they are. Call 1-800-974-TIPS or 723-ENOUGH. That's 723-3683.
Slowing down condemnation process is the rights of the individuals who are the owners in regard to...
out there too. And I had a question on another resolution too, unless somebody wants to respond.
Opposed? Okay, all of those resolutions carry unanimously. Now we're going to separate out
people that might be listening to use municipal state aid funds for skywalks downtown instead of on streets that would qualify.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, all of those resolutions carry unanimously.
But the facts are that in some way, at some time, this land will be used, unless some private citizen.
Sure. Well, probably the most driving force was the Little League group that was getting tossed out of property they had occupied for years, and they came to the city and asked us to find them some flat space for the Eastern Little League, Lake Park Little League.
What we just did now?
What are you doing right now as we talk?
Oh, well, we're just standing here, and he's taking a pic. It won't be a jump cut where it's kind of like a beat. We call it emergency room or...
Well, it depends what age group we're talking about, but in general, for the people who are just out in the heat, they're going to feel lightheaded, weak, muscle aches, fatigued, possible some confusion, muscle cramps, and that would be some of the first signs and symptoms. But heat exhaustion and heat stroke can be quite catastrophic and can come on all of a sudden with bizarre behavior and collapse.
He started out as an idealistic young man out to conquer the elements, a man determined to bend old Kitchigummy to his iron will, a hard-working meteorologist from a Twin Cities suburb whose goal in life was to face down the sometimes ruthless personality of Lake Superior. Fighting the sting of winter, dodging snowballs in dress shoes and a suit, he learned the hard way. Despite his best efforts, Lake Superior can't be conquered. Along the way, there were a few rocks, a few obstacles to climb, but eventually, through it all, he became what he is today. Professional shopper, amateur model, and aspiring world traveler.
Cleaning out his desk, John Jetta, News 6.
John, best of luck at your new position in Iowa, and if you ever return to our shores, we can celebrate the return of the Jetta.
Understands that a waiver will result
is being bound over for some concerns and a rash of some other incidents.
No witnesses and testifying on behalf, I understand that? Yes.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't know if you guys want to show. Consult with Anthony about some other issues, and we are asking that the court order that a psychological evaluation.
The cougar is a rare animal in Minnesota, at least most of the time, but recently there have been a number of cougar sightings in the Warba and Black Duck areas.
But Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Ontario, the Dakotas, even Iowa are all reporting increased mountain lion sightings.
All the sightings turned serious here near Warba about 2 weeks ago. In this pasture, with a family preparing for dinner barely 100 yards away, a mountain lion was believed to have attacked the family's livestock. After feeding in this pasture, one of Roxanne Blum's horses ran to her house, badly injured.
He had blood everywhere. We thought he got into the barbed wire fence. And we brought him out and cleaned him up, and we got looking, and they looked more like claw marks.
Blum called the DNR, who told her the wounds were most likely cat-inflicted, which Bird says is a rare thing.
Usually people just, when they see a cat, it's crossing the road or crossing a field, hunting. And attacks on livestock are really rare.
Common or not, Blum says one happened on her land, which gives her extra cause for concern.
My kids play out in the pasture all the time, and it was in the wooded part. We were out there the day before, just walking through the woods, and no dogs, no anything, and my son came out and was playing out there by himself. He's only 6.
And after 7 years of living on her land, Blum isn't letting her horses or children use the pasture. At least not until things seem to be more safe. In Warba, Jeff Papis, Channel 6 News.
It's illegal.
Mambo, qué rico mambo, mambo de Machaguay, mambo, qué rico mambo, mambo de Machaguay. ¿Cuál es mi nombre? Mambo, qué rico mambo, qué rico mambo, mambo de Machaguay.
Project. Yeah. And we'll be looking at rough effects on benthic organisms, which are bottom-dwelling creatures that are important food for native fish.
The man who fired the rifle, Ricky Oberholzer, is now being held on $5,000 cash bond. He is expected to be charged with being a convicted felon in possession of a firearm. The other man, 24-year-old Norman Schreck, was given a $2,000 cash bond and is expected to be charged with attempted aggravated battery. Bayfield District Attorney Ruth Kressel says other charges may be filed pending the outcome of the ongoing investigation. However, she would not comment as to the possibility of second-degree murder or manslaughter charges. The incident began shortly before midnight Tuesday. 3 men went to the home of Oberholzer to settle a score over a theft. But during a scuffle, Oberholzer grabbed a loaded .30-06 rifle, shooting 2 of the 3 men in the stomach.
All 3 left the home. 2 jumped in the car and took off, and the other one was left on foot walking down the road. He eventually ended up at the Barnes ambulance service building and reported the incident, and then he was taken into custody shortly thereafter.
The 2 who were shot got into a car and drove away. They were found dead in that car about 6 miles away along Highway 27 south of Barnes. The dead men are identified as 30-year-old Glenn McNamara of Cadott, Wisconsin, and 48-year-old Richard C. Barquist of Willard, Wisconsin. The other man, Norman Schreck, ran from the trailer home, making it back to Barnes, where he turned himself in at the ambulance garage. Both Oberholzer and Schreck are scheduled back in court on August 15th. Bill Lund, Channel 6 News.
You betcha. It's been a rusting hulk for a long time, and hopefully it'll serve us well into the future. It's going to have to. There's not money to build a new one.
For 100 years, the Brule River was stocked with trout, but that was a short-term answer to a long-term problem.
What we're trying to create is a natural situation so that these fish have the ability to spawn and rejuvenate their own population, and then we don't end up having to fill in with stocked fish.
The trout weren't reproducing because of poor conditions in the river itself. This group of sportsmen wants to correct the problem.
What we need to get for them is a velocity of water that allows them, when they fan the gravel, it needs to be movable. They fan it, once it lifts up into the current, it'll then move downstream if there's enough current to move it. So that's the reason that they need a specific velocity.
The solution? Wing dams, which concentrate flowing water into a smaller area, thus speeding it up. The volunteers are building new dams to replace old, damaged ones. They pick up submerged rocks to simulate the old river, then bring in the gravel.
All they do in here is basically, fan their tail and dig kind of an indention like that. They'll lay their eggs down in there, and then they'll come back above and they'll fan more gravel over the top of the eggs. And there they'll sit until early spring.
Working with the Wisconsin DNR, the group tried out its idea under Stone's Bridge. Money from trout stamps that are sold in Wisconsin covers the $4,000 cost of the gravel. The satisfaction of providing a place for the trout to spawn makes the work worth doing.
For the most part, this river, with its history and the quality of the whole stream, a lot of people care about it, and they want to see this thing become self-sufficient again like it was 100 years ago.
When the water speed is just right and the gravel's in place, the trout reproductive project will finally be finished, just in time for fall spawning. At the Brule River, Liza Olson, Channel 6 News. On August 21st, 1950, 227 Northlandmen embarked on a journey that would bring them to the shores of Korea. When squad leader Cameron Heimbaugh left Duluth, he already had the experience of 3 World War II campaigns under his belt.
Squad leader, we have 13 men to be controlled over out of the platoon. And, you know, young fellows, never been away from home before, and it's, you know, you kind of watch over them and hope that everything comes out all right.
About 2/3 of those young men survived the horrors of battle. Pete Hildry was a machine gunner and says although his life expectancy in combat was only 2 minutes, he survived just about a year.
Well, there's a bond that you develop with people when you're in combat that stays with you the rest of your life. You spill your blood with somebody, it sort of stays around.
It's that bond that brings these veterans together for a reunion every 5 years.
And it's great to get together with the fellows, and you kind of forget them a little bit in between the 5 years, but once you see each other, you know, it's really a great feeling.
Yeah. Does it bring back a lot of memories?
Oh, yeah, you always get memories. Yeah, always, yeah. We lost some good men over there, and that's a shame, but it was the way it went.
And after these former Company B Marines have bid their final farewells, they'll carry with them the memories of yesteryear and the hopes of meeting again tomorrow. In Duluth, Liza Olson, Channel 6 News.
Resolution 656 vacates a 30-foot driveway east and along.
Number one issue was taxes. Everybody feels their taxes are too high. I wonder why.
Along with the DWI, but I think the speed probably has us, for the moment, that's a problem that we're having that we need to address, and the motorists need. There aren't enough troopers to keep the speed under control. The motorists have to voluntarily do that, but
continue to do that.
Mayor Gary Doty's task in his campaign has been one different from all the other candidates. Obviously, as the incumbent, he spends a lot of time defending his record, one he, of course, staunchly supports.
As mayor and as a commissioner and as a legislator, I have acted. I haven't just spoken the word and stopped in and visited you. I have also acted in support and will continue to do that.
Doty is a campaign veteran. He's been running on his record as a legislator, a county commissioner, and as mayor for nearly 20 years. And he says his message over that time has always been well received.
You know, I've been elected in the city 6 times. And we're doing some of the same things that we've done in the past, and it's been successful, getting out, talking with people, laying out a record.
That's a safe approach. UMD political science professor Craig Grau says that issue is the first thing voters look for in an incumbent.
Usually what people talk about is how well is the city doing, and is the person who's leading the city responsible for it. Those are the things I think that are important, although there's this negative, just a general negative attitude that all incumbents have to be aware of.
That makes for some interesting math. In a race where the top 2 candidates advance to the general election, it's quite possible Doty will win a plurality of votes, but not a majority. But the mayor says his glass is half full, not half empty.
Well, when you've got 3 candidates actually from Duluth, one coming in from Wisconsin, the 3 candidates I expect are going to split it up. So my guess is that whoever comes out of it, that most of those Duluth votes will stay in Duluth.
That feeling on the part of the mayor suggests he knows who his adversary will be in November, where his message will conflict the most directly. In Duluth, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
There was an element of unreality to the whole thing. Elvis singing.
Well, tomorrow will be
to a horse. It was an effort to help support St. Paul's Mounted Patrol by raffling off a beautiful antique 1958 Cadillac Fleetwood.
And the winner is Dave Dickhut.
I don't know that I can describe any feelings because I don't know if there weren't any.
Yeah.
It's just kind of numb, I guess.
Dave Dickhut said he's never had any special yearning for a classic caddy, but this one piqued his fancy, so he'd purchased 3 chances, and the keys were his. So he took it for a drive, and this is the result.
The people that were stopped at the light were yelling and pointing, and I looked out the window and saw flame coming from underneath the fender.
Flame. Dave Dickhut says he was lucky his prize was so close to a fire station when it caught fire. He's heard it'll take about $4,000 to fix it. And he still owes taxes, another $4,000 to his understanding in income and sales taxes. And the car has a listed value of $10,000.
I wasn't even sure I was going to be able to keep the car in the first place because of the tax situation. And now I don't know if I can get enough out of it to pay the taxes.
Yep, yesterday started out almost too good to be true. Dave Dickhut won a Cadillac, and it burned.
The M1 Abrams tank is to an armored division what an F-16 is to an air squadron, the best weapon available. The Minnesota-based 94th Armored just received new M1s to replace their outdated models, and a Grand Rapids-based unit showed theirs off today. Company D of the 94th's 1st Battalion will now train with the Army's main battle tank, and the aid to readiness will be invaluable.
You're going to be able to go into a situation and say, yeah, this is an M1 tank. I know what an M1 tank is. I know how to use it. I know how to fight with it. I can acquire targets with that main gun. I know how to back it up and make it go forward. I know how to fix it.
The 94th tankers say there's obviously a number of advantages to this M1 as opposed to the old M60, not the least of which is being able to take this 60-ton vehicle at freeway speeds virtually wherever you want. They call it the ultimate all-terrain vehicle. Staff Sergeant Abe Abbott fought in Desert Storm with an M1. He says the new vehicle makes you about as safe as you can get, considering the circumstances.
You can move faster, really faster than the old tanks. And the safety on here is great. Basically wasn't afraid of anything.
They actually take hits from the front and deflect it off because of the angle of the iron. It's really strong iron right up here. I think it's about 6 inches thick or more.
The 61-ton vehicle houses a 1,500 horsepower engine and can run on jet fuel, regular gas, or diesel fuel. But for now, the unit will only be using their new vehicles at Camp Ripley, and hopefully won't have to use them anywhere else. In Grand Rapids, Jeff Pappas, KARE 11 News. In Grand Rapids, Jeff Pappas for NBC News.
You're in now and you can't get out. Not safe to get out.
Yeah, it's like, they ain't safe to get out, that's about it.
Chilling words from a 15-year-old known as Dreamer, a member of St. Paul's notorious Tiny Man crew. Authorities told us the TMC gang is responsible for dozens of drive-by shootings, assaults, robberies, and assorted violence. Dreamer described the violent initiation for kids to get into gangs.
We gotta jumping in.
How does that work?
It's like we gotta get everybody, and then like 7, 8 people gotta jump him to see if he could like survive to be.
Jump him, beat him up.
30 seconds.
30 seconds of being beaten?
Yeah.
That's the initiation.
That's what you get, boy.
Is someone safer in a gang or out of a gang around here?
Out of a gang.
Out of a gang. Well, then why would anybody want to join a gang?
I don't know. You know, it's the 90s, man. Everybody want to be a gangster.
We spent the evening driving with Tu Cha, a St. Paul officer assigned to the Asian communities of St. Paul. He says gangs have a strong and dangerous hold here. Early in the evening, we were flagged down by this man who told us he had been attacked and robbed by members of the Crips.
You the one that hit me and took my money and snatched my bike. You the one.
Backup quickly arrived on the scene.
What's the bike? I ain't riding no bike. I ain't taking no bike from nobody.
After about 10 minutes of discussion, street justice prevailed.
You got two choices, man. Either give him that $15 or you go to jail. That's it. This is a robbery.
The victim got his money and his bicycle back. Neither man wanted to press charges. As it turned out, it was a dispute between the Bloods and the Crips. Police said probably over a drug deal.
I'm up at 91.
As we continued our patrol, it became obvious that Officer Cha knew almost all the gang members in his district by name and said while that familiarity helps in solving crimes, it's not stopping kids from joining gangs. He said some get involved as early as 2nd grade.
From street experience and encountering with the some of the kids that wannabes and joining their brothers in the gangs, I think we see most of them around the age of about 7 or 8.
Yeah, they started the Darren program in 5th and 6th grade as they're finding it was too late. They really need to move that back into the 2nd and 3rd grade.
Sergeant Dan Carlson is the head of the gang unit in the St. Paul Police Department. He says St. Paul ignored its early gang problems, and now they're verging on out of control.
The denial will kill you, and with gangs, I mean, it can kill the community. It can kill the community spirit. The most important thing is to be involved within the kids and within the community, and it's okay to say that, hey, we know we got a problem.
Denial is what Sergeant Carlson says is going on here in Superior. He says gang activity starts small but grows quickly, and recognition is the first step in stopping that growth. In Superior, Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News.
A gift certificate for some furniture refinishing from the Superior Vocation Center. They'll have their own name.
By that time.
Any major projects you see these funds going toward? Or?
We are looking for November 16th. We hope that as the cuts are coming, a lot of the organizations that you might think are funded by government or some of the other state funds, They are being cut back and the services are still needed.
I don't think that's how it works. 5 boxes. Oh, I could have counted it. I was in liberal arts, not math.
Well, we love music, and we want to see that it's made, that everyone can come and enjoy music here at the conservatory. And it's such a beautiful place, so we like to spread the feast of the arts and have people come in and just have a good time.
And they broke his It's kind of funny, we laughed pretty hard. Well, he's 21 years old and he's still fit, and he's been working all summer full time. But at this age in a horse, if he was to become injured for some reason, his injuries would take longer to for him to recover, and we just would rather retire him now while he's healthy. So, buddy, now what, huh?
Well, thanks a lot. I sure appreciate it.
Oh.
There's no safe cigarette. That's the most important message. Tar is not a proxy for all that's unhealthy in cigarette smoke. And as a result, people shouldn't use tar to determine that a cigarette is healthy or unhealthy. Cigarette smoking is not healthy.
It wasn't a good day for singing or for much else to do with the outdoors, but that didn't stop people from gathering at Bayfront Park for a day of singing, speech making, and bridge building between activists from all over.
Here, there are activists from all over the Great Lakes,
We even have somebody here from Germany. I know that there's a group of people here from Slovakia, and I think that there's more worldwide attention being given to the Great Lakes.
Well, behind the singing and the conversations, there's a larger goal. These activists no longer enjoy a sympathetic majority in Congress, and for the first time in 40 years, they're on the outside looking in. So today's rally had a definite political purpose: organize.
If you compare our efforts compared to the Christian Coalition or the Wise Youth Movement, I would say yes, that the people who are our political adversaries are much more united and have a common strategy compared to us.
Cummins spoke as president of the Pure Food campaign today and called for other liberal themes such as lower defense spending and higher minimum wages. However, the main issue of the day was still environmental quality. Cummins says those issues are more accurately ones of public health, sentiments echoed by others today.
The lakes are getting cleaner, the governments are starting to work, but we still will know we're done when we can eat the fish. And on the U.S. side, about 98% of the Great Lakes have warnings that say it's unsafe to eat different kinds of fish.
The assembled onlookers heard speeches and music in support of those views today, views that they must now convince Congress to accept. In Duluth, Jeff Pappas, Channel 6 News.
But to stay on as temporary employees. Our basic labor agreement and listen to the problems that we're having. I would think that I'd be happy to let you guys have a copy of this. You know, I guess that's not the best way to state that, but the vehemently opposed their hiring. I'll tell you, it seems like the company is just turning up the heat on every item. They are really trying to make it an untenable situation for this local union to deal with them on any efforts, on any matters whatsoever.
I'm able to do the ordinary things that healthy people take for granted. I can go to the grocery store, I can cook, I can go shopping at the mall.
Katie Lucas's whole life has changed since doctors at Johns Hopkins figured out what was causing her chronic fatigue symptoms, her muddled thinking and exhaustion. After undergoing tilt table tests, Lucas and every other study participant but one were found to suffer from neurally mediated hypotension, dramatic drops in blood pressure. All were put on therapies combining drugs and increased salt and fluid intake. 2/3 of the patients responded successfully.
This provides some hope to the patients that the symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome can be improved and in some patients markedly improved with treatment.
Chronic fatigue patients often live with the stigma that what they're feeling is all in their heads. Why this study is so important to patients like Lucas, who had seen over 30 doctors for help.
You get discounted, you get disbelieved. People think that it's either malingering or that it's psychosomatic. And I think that the findings from Hopkins will go a long way toward shattering some of these myths.
Hopkins researchers caution that treating this hypotension is not a cure for chronic fatigue, but for many patients it has helped them regain the strength to live a more normal life again. This study backs up a similar Hopkins study earlier this year that looked at teenagers who suffered from chronic fatigue syndrome. Again, most of those patients improved after neurally mediated hypotension was diagnosed and treated. Jennifer Johnson for NBC News.
$1,000 a year. The subsidies that were referred proposals that the city had, it's clear that the city was intended.
to be personal friends of his. Furthermore, we believe this corporation was established solely for the purpose of circumventing state law regarding public employees and the 1993 court order against the use of temporary workers. And to this day, the City of Duluth continues to provide an extraordinary subsidy to this private corporation at taxpayer expense.
Today, October 11th, 1995, I declare true gay liberation.
To do was to share my story and say that we all have opportunities to make a difference by educating the people around us, by coming out. By being honest about who we are as lesbians, gays, and bisexuals, we highlight the discrimination that we face and inform people that there are no federal laws to protect us from this discrimination. In fact, in all but 9 states, it is perfectly legal to fire someone just because they are lesbian or gay.
Look at the other schools within this city. There isn't a single school that draws students from as wide and Martin American diverse an area as this school, but his boots are full of mud and damaging school property. He was on his bike. He was on Barton Avenue. He did not fault the driver.
He shadowed doubt upon himself because there's nothing more secret than the outlet mall deal. 2 years ago, the citizens of Duluth were told that the outlet mall had 75% occupancy rate. Yesterday, they were extended again because they didn't have the occupancy that they claimed they had. When was the truth set aside? Was it then or is it now? Somebody was dishonest then or they're dishonest now.
His statement that we had 75% of the leases signed at one time was totally false. That was never said to anybody. What was said was that there were letters of commitment and leases that was enough to make the project go. And you know, now the opportunity, now that all the governmental pieces are in place, and I'm talking about federal government got involved in this one, now we can move ahead. Now he needs to have the time to go back to those people and say, yes, we do have a project. Here's what it's going to look like. Now that we know what the design is, now we can lease the space. And so I'm confident that'll move ahead.
There was a lot of concern with the way
No, I don't think he was ready.
Water running down here.
Yeah. Well, I had to look here because I thought maybe it was...
The design that we have shows that it's a community design. It's intended to show that the police department is here to help our communities, and we want the residents to feel comfortable using their police department.
The gray stripe is reflective.
I know.
Little stop action here.
Oh my God.
I enjoyed it.
I wish I had a camera like that.
Yeah, I wish I did too. Put Anne Marie in the news.
Well, basically we had a construction crew in here this afternoon that was doing some utility work for Northwestern Bell, and they were doing some augering under the road, and they ruptured the main pipeline that comes through this particular area.
You have to think about brushing your teeth. Your hand does it for you. Well, that doesn't mean that you...
Routing decisions are made sometimes to avoid railroad crossings and maybe go a different direction to avoid going over the crossing.
When it hadn't been, it would have been around for 6 or 7 years undiscovered. It had crystallized, the chemicals had separated, and at that point it becomes what they call shock sensitive. In other words, twist the cap, shake the bottle, and it could explode.
If you were to add inflation, he said, and that of course is a very... Who do I support for mayor? I'm not going to support either candidate for mayor. When I go into that voting booth, it'll be my own decision. But I'm certainly not pleased with Mr. Bergson. I've got to tell you that. Clearly.
Do you concur with Mayor Doty's claim that he saved $800,000 in savings?
Well,
for administrative costs, or is that inflated too, and in the opposite direction?
No, I wouldn't say it's necessarily inflated.
We think there's quite a few people out here that have appreciated over the years, last 4 years, Mayor Doty's efforts that he's put toward the whole city.
John Smith. That's just good common sense.
If you're going to use John Smith's tax dollars to help the community, you're either going to help other businesses already in your community or a new industry that isn't competing with John Smith and others.
That's just good common sense. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure that one out, but my opponent doesn't seem to get it. He believes it's okay, and I disagree with him.
That's what I need.
Though most eyes were focused on the action of the game Monday night at the Dome, the lens of an ESPN photographer was focused on action of a different sort in the tunnel leading to the locker rooms and press area. An altercation between KMSP photographer Dan Metcalf and Viking security director Steve Rollins. Rollins claims the incident was provoked. Metcalf vehemently disagrees. Whatever the case, late this afternoon, Vikings president Roger Hedrick paid a visit to KMSP and offered an apology.
We said that we obviously did not condone the action that took place from the standpoint of our employee. We made our apology. We made sure it won't happen again.
Hedrick refuses to specify what disciplinary action has been taken against Rollins. Regardless, KMSP News Director Dana Benson says he's satisfied with the apology, despite the fact that Rollins initially denied having even laid a hand on Metcalf.
When I went over there in the morning yesterday, was told that no one had put a hand on our photographer and that he had fallen down on his own and then gotten back up. And it was later in the day that the tape came out.
Critics of Viking security say they weren't surprised at all by Monday's altercation.
The biggest problem they have is they're under the delusion that they are significant. They are paid sentries. That's what they are. And the way they conduct themselves, I think they have a vastly inflated view of their importance.
I think there was provocation on one side and there was a response on the other, and perhaps neither should have occurred.
You know what? It's like the devil just came in. The birds, blind.
She exploits people who have no choice. Is there water in the pitcher?
Yeah, I filled it when I left out to go to the jungle.
Okay then.
Do you want some? It's nice and cold.
No, we won't have enough for tea in the morning.
And don't exaggerate. There's enough to last all day.
Subscribers. A special thank you. It's the first season that we've begun this. Those of you who are not subscribers and would like to be, your tickets purchased tonight can go to the price of a season ticket, which is only $20.
This is his home number in Beaver Bay. This is the caretaker. So go up first, and then rent these out. These are nicer, actually. They're bigger. They have a garage. Some people have been running fevers on and off. I mean, everybody up here's got medical complaints of things that have been, because they've all been drinking it and showering in it and using it.
Yep, I knew it was coming, so I went and got my new snowboard out on Wednesday and got ready to go. Fixed my snow pants because they're all ripped up. It's good.
And we felt that Duluth shouldn't suffer because of its location, so we decided to have one here.
That I may have given over the last 13 years, if I took all of those people, goal of reducing the number of traffic deaths,
that will no doubt haunt them for the rest of their lives.
For coming, and in stores and offices, the amount of suffering that takes place in this country because of a drunk driver is still way too high to satisfy me or anyone else. That number needs to be zero. You in the media will reach tonight on your canisters located in stores and offices, service stations, restaurants, all around this entire area. In fact, it's nice to be able to say that this year, the response from the merchants to our request to put a canister of red ribbons in their place of business has been the greatest that we have ever had in all the years that we've had Red Ribbon campaign.
Fund K through 12 education. So we would welcome your residential and seasonal recreational.
Yes.
I'm slowly going to be taxed out of a place that I chose to live, love Lake Superior, and have the opportunity to live down there.
Part of the Duluth, western half.
And rest, my district is 46A, which are...
Based on current law, in conjunction with these proposed federal cuts, that we would have to raise our local property tax levy by an average of 50% each year for the next 7 years.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that are acting as though this is a real emergency here. They have a command center set up. People only know so much until certain times, and then they are told what happens next. It's all a very realistic situation.
And we know that it's hard to quit tobacco products, but it's much easier not to start. And if we can get young people to be convinced that starting is not the thing to do, then we'll have a bigger impact than trying to get smokers who are already addicted to quit.
And that's why the American Cancer Society has changed its focus of the Great American Smokeout. This year, D-Day is targeted at our nation's youth, even ones that don't know what a cigarette is. Right here in the Northland, students have been taking part in their own anti-smoking campaigns in conjunction with D-Day.
Attention students, this week is National Pledge to Quit Smoking Week. All this week, Central BPA will be asking students to make a pledge to quit smoking.
Our biggest project is this Pillar of Hope that we've been working on, and what it is a large piece of paper just surrounding the pillar, and we're having kids sign it, and so then they're agreeing to not smoke for the entire school year.
Area hospitals have also adopted the Stop Smoking message today. In the newborn nursery at St. Mary's in Duluth, little anti-smoking t-shirts are being put on all the newborns, proving you're never too young to learn. That's encouraging for adults.
Oh, it is, because as adults, we don't have nearly the impact that young people have on each other, on their peers.
In Duluth, Ann Carroll, Channel 6 News.
happened to that signboard? It was over here, and I didn't see
Well,
it
it was
come back to the
downstairs.
house. Oh, was it?
It was downstairs.
Oh,
it was on
okay.
the podium.
When we show the shots like this, is that people think that the whole thing is trashed, you know, and it's
Yeah.
such a small percentage of it. But
I think that the Christmas decorations really will help to offset that because, especially, you know, they've got the